Why should wrestling fans watch MLW?
I mean, man, look at my face, bro. You get missed in the face. No, I'm just playing though. As far as joining here, man, it's because of me. Why you should watch it, why you should join is me, the young GOAT, bro.
Young GOAT, young GOAT, young GOAT.
Jacob Fatu versus Alex Hammerstone. Title for title, debut on Vice Television. This was the biggest match in MLW history. Major League Wrestling is one of North America's biggest promotions where young, hungry, independent stars, international stars, veterans, and MMA experts come to perform, fly, grapple, and simply enough, fight. MLW is a slow burner of professional wrestling, just getting hotter and hotter each event. I was actually blessed with the opportunity to go to MLW Fightland in person at the 2300 Arena, the ECW Arena. Asked press to see some of the wrestlers right before their big match, talk about why MLW is important, why they'll be winning their matches, and the big debut on Vice Television. And as I was in the ECW Arena amongst the MLW faithful, amongst that type of energy, I realized more people gotta watch this. Holy crap, it's good. What the heck? Usually when we look at story arcs, it deals with a movie, an individual character. But in this case, Major League Wrestling is a perfect description of a man in a whole. It's actually one of the most common storytelling arcs in the business of film and entertainment. Actually, Finding Nemo, I'm sure you've seen that before. If you haven't, oh my gosh. What is going on with your life? That's literally based off a man in a whole story arc. Basically, a man in a whole is somebody's in trouble and they need to get out of trouble, which always ends up leading to a happy ending. Major League Wrestling began running shows on June 16, 2002 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, live from the old ECW Arena. During this time in the wrestling business, MLW filled that void that WCW and ECW had left once, they got bought from the big boys up north. Much like promotions who leaned on copying a WCW style of show, MLW leaned in a different direction, becoming a little more ultra-violent, becoming a little more cutthroat in the storytelling, much like ECW. They even crowned their first ever world champion after a tournament won by Shane Douglas, which is very familiar to his actual ECW World Championship win in another tournament. After moving their headquarters from Philly to New York and then to Florida, they would actually start their first underground TV tapings, hosted by a very familiar extreme face, that being Joey Styles. At this point, with the creation of a more map-based in-ring style promotion that was also based out of Philly, you might have heard it before, it's called Ring of Honor, they essentially became the new alternative to the WWE. But to their credit, MLW was also the breeding ground for some of the best and most successful stars in the business today. But due to a lack of sponsorships and funding, the company would close their doors in 2004. It wouldn't return until 2011 as a podcast network for different wrestlers to have their own audio-based content. They came and left as a company wearing an ECW Halloween costume. But who started this? Who let this die? Who was running the show? Well, let's talk about Bauer. Bauer has been a devoted wrestling fan who found his way into the business at a young age, being a massive fan of Extreme Championship Wrestling. Obviously, looking at the style that MLW once was, we can kind of see that right there. After MLW's initial shutdown, he'd become a writer for the WWE in his early 20s, a feat that was actually compared to Sean McVay, the youngest coach ever in NFL that actually went to the Rams like 2 weeks before his 31st birthday. But the only difference is that this guy worked for WWE, and also he younged him by like a whole decade. He was in like his 20s, learning the business under the wing of the WWE Hall of Famer Alpha of the Wild Samoans. As he saw an opening in the market for another promotion to fill that crater that WCW and ECW had left, he thought, well, I'm gonna make my own thing. By 2005, MLW had already closed down, and Bauer quickly found himself a new job working for the WWE. During this stint, he would work on some of the top storylines in the company, becoming the right-hand man for Vince McMahon, and notably being the driving force behind Eddie Fatu's best gimmick in the WWE, Umaga. For someone that was an intern for Alpha, he helped create Umaga. We can still see Bauer's love for the Samoan dynasty in MLW today through Umaga's nephew, Jacob Fatu. Over the years, he would work as the head for marketing and branding for Ring of Honor, the president of AAA's Americas division, Lucha Underground, and made a career for himself working in MMA, specifically Showtime. And all that together would mainly help his new idea of what MLW could actually be. In 2017, Corton MLW Radio Network at the time finished hosting that year's Wale Mania, and it kind of dawns on the guy, why is this just a radio network? Why am I just a podcaster now? Everybody's a podcaster now. MLW was the best thing going since ECW. I'm bringing it back. No, I'm bringing it back. In October 2017, MLW would run One Shot, highlighting some of the best independent stars on the scene, most that we would see on television every week now, with the likes of Ricochet, MJF, Isaiah Scott, Darby Allin, MVP, Mia Yim, and Sami Callihan, just to name a few. Now with a little sponsor, the legendary commentator that literally hasn't been in a wrestling booth since 2001 when WCW died, Tony Schiavone, MLW received high praise from wrestling journalists, showing his admiration for the show's production value, the undercard, the reintroduction of Tom Lawler into professional wrestling, an exciting main event between Shane Strickland or Isaiah Scott versus Ricochet, where Rico would actually tap in the closing sequence. The aftermath of One Shot saw Tom Lawler be called out by another former UFC star, Matt Riddle, who actually was signed with the company. At the next show, Never Say Never, we see the debuts of the likes of Sammy Guevara, Priscilla Kelly, Chelsea Green, and even Selena De La Renta. Over time, MLW would carve out a roster of young indie stars, second generation standouts, veterans, and big stars looking for a new company to call home while becoming that true alternative in the business, becoming more of a sports-like atmosphere with a less emphasis on like stupid gimmicks. They would sign deals with BN Sports and Fubo Sports Network to actually have their weekly show MLW Fusion broadcasted, and also they put their weekly show on a YouTube channel where they arguably gained probably their biggest audience. After a stint on the Zone, the company would actually have their biggest TV deal so far, now airing their shows on Vice Television. Besides WWE or AEW, MLW was the only promotion that was easily accessible for fans, especially if you're already watching the Dark Side of the Ring series. Now on Vice, fans get to witness some of the best athletes in the world, and let me just introduce you to a couple of them. Myron Reed, this 25-year-old aerial genius from Louisville, Kentucky, draws close comparisons to a young Muhammad Ali, as Myron is a master of his craft, fights for injustice, and has been in some of the biggest matches in company history, living up to the moniker that he has of being the young GOAT. Richard Holiday, this coffee-drinking, AirPod-wearing, stick-in-the-mud Richard Holiday is like the definition of what 2021 heel in professional wrestling should be. He also has a lot of money in his bank account. His daddy rich. Born with a gift of gab, he's the standard bearer of an entitled rich kid that also packs a pretty clean punch. Calvin Tankman. Heavyweight hustle is an understatement when you watch Tankman, as this behemoth of a man moves with the intensity of a freaking army truck, but also with like subtle grace. It's like a delicate butterfly, but also a really, really big butterfly. Tankman by far is the most eye-catching performer on the roster, and he was signed off the independent scene completely unknown. Before a short time in the company, he has world champion written all over him. Alex Hammerstone, built like your favorite wrestler from the 80s, your boy Hammer, is a modern day bodybuilder wrestler in today's faster paced industry. He's the first and only national openweight champion, and after Fightland, he might just become your new reigning and defending MLW World Heavyweight Champion. Jacob Fatu and Contra Unit, son of the Tonga Kid, nephew of the late Umaga, and cousins of your favorite Tribal Chief. Jacob Fatu is yet one of Bauer's nods to the Samoan dynasty, taking an agile, hard-hitting beast and made him the top star of the entire company. Fatu alongside Contra Unit have run Rush Shot, taking out opponents and making Fatu the longest reigning champion in MLW. With a moonsault that would probably make Io Shirai jealous, Fatu is literally the total package. MLW is blessed to have such a tremendous athlete. Oh my goodness. Also, hail Contra. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. How many times have you watched a wrestling company and they proclaim right before they start, we're gonna be the alternative, we're different, and then they're just like, not really? Like, they are a little bit like they have a different wrestler, so that's different, but like, are they really different? There's an argument that AEW and TNA introduce a higher paced style of wrestling with the X Division or AEW's like super indie style of matches, but then again, so does NXT, and most of those wrestlers that are in AEW, in TNA, or Impact Wrestling, they wrestled in the same circles as the guys are on the main roster of WWE, so it's almost like the same kind of wrestling, it's just 3 different letters in front of it. Actually asked a Discord server of MLW fans why they think that more people like you guys should be watching Major League Wrestling, and they had this to say. Drew Sexton said that wrestling fans should watch MLW because it's the working man's promotion. And Joe Mon said, I'd say watch Major League Wrestling because they've got more of a throwback promotional vibe than any other company. Before explaining how the other promotions in the United States and also outside of it really don't offer that actual alternative that everyone keeps saying that they have. MLW operates with the understanding that wrestling fans already know that kayfabe is so dead. Yes, we can suspend our disbelief, but unless you're under the age of like, I don't know, 12, you know wrestling fake. The wrestling business operates under 2 different realities, fictional storylines, and the business/politics that stop and push different wrestlers' momentum and entire careers. MLW has recently started to lean more into an alternative reality with their more like dystopian universe, Azteca Underground, which is like a successor of what Lucha Underground was. But even with that, MLW tells a special type of storytelling, that is combative storytelling. A lot of time in wrestling, the story is about 2 people, a feud where good faces evil. Austin versus McMahon is like a great example of that. Feuds between 2 wrestlers is an age-old story. Hogan versus Savage, Punk versus Cena, Sasha versus Bayley. They all tell a story on why these people hate each other, what's their background, and how they got to this point of where they're having this big blow-off match. In MLW, their main focus is on telling each wrestler's individual story, why they're in the league, and how they're gonna fight to the top of their division. Very familiar to the world of mixed martial arts. The rise of UFC's most profitable stars weren't really based off of feuds. I mean, like, sure, there were instant classics in between, but it really wasn't about the feud or the rematch. It was about that fighter in his or her journey to reach to top of whatever division that they're part of. MLW has divisions in place based off of MMA with heavyweight, middleweight, open, and even their new featherweight division. Place where matches are called fights. Superstars are called fighters. MLW quite literally is an MMA-like professional wrestling show. Will Major League Wrestling ever dethrone the WWE? Will they ever do the same numbers on par to AEW? No. Why would you think that? Those two companies are backed by two billionaires with a spending problem. Nah. If you love wrestling, you want an actual alternative, then Major League Wrestling offers the one thing that no one else can in the business: a competitive, real story.
We going up like 1,000. I'ma flex just like a muscle man Malcolm. We going up like 1,000. I'ma flex just like a muscle man Malcolm. When it just like 1, 2, 3. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze.